I'm Scott Lee Cohen, and TAPED with Rabbi Doug is next.
We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug on your TV tonight.
But Daddy, I want to watch Monday Night Football.
Forget about Monday Night Football. There's no other thing we're going to watch on Monday but Rabbi Doug.
Yeah, Rabbi Doug on TV tonight. We're going to see Rabbi Doug. Oh, everybody talk about Doug.
Shalom and welcome to TAPED with Rabbi Doug. Glad you could be with us today. My guest today is the candidate for Lieutenant Governor of the state of Illinois, Scott Lee Cohen. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Scott, I want to tell everyone a little bit about you because I'm not sure that many people watching know who you are already if they haven't been following the upcoming elections and the February primary, which is going to be in 2010, which you are going to be in the running at that time. Let me tell them a little bit about you. First of all, Scott is a former resident of Lincolnwood, where he grew up.
I grew up in Lincolnwood as a youngster.
And you went to Niles West High School.
I did.
All right. And you went into business while you were in your senior year because your dad got sick and you kind of took over the business.
You know, I was involved in the business as younger than that, but I actually ran the business when he got sick.
Okay. You're into real estate. You own some real estate. You own some a shopping center, some office buildings and stuff, and you have some residential units that you are involved with. And but your real concern now is the environment. You have launched not long ago a green cleaning supply company, which is good for the environment. And it's an alternative to harsh things which possibly could hurt the environment, which everybody has read about and heard about, but sort of, I don't think a lot of people delve into when they go shopping. So to have that possibility available more readily is always a good thing.
The people need a little more education on green technology, green cleaning supplies. Unfortunately, people are getting sick every day because of the chemicals they use. Mm-hmm. So it's very important for them to become educated.
Okay. You were involved in a group that called for Rob Blagojevich to resign and to end the questions about him. You collected signatures. You held press conferences outside the State of Illinois building. Your experience in that led to further involvement in politics, obviously. And now you're running for lieutenant governor, but you've never held office. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So how does a businessman decide that, hey, I want to become the lieutenant governor? What is it that attracted you to this particular office? And what is it that you think you can do for the people of Illinois by coming into this office and being elected?
They're both very good questions. First of all, I did not choose to become or run for a lieutenant governor at first. My main concern was using my ability and the experience I have in business someplace in politics. When I became involved with Rod must resign and when he became impeached, that opened up the office for lieutenant governor because Pat Quinn became our governor. That's when I realized it was a good match.
Okay. I've had Rod on the show. I've had Pat on the show, both in their terms of being governor. Let me ask you this. You went ahead and you spear-hunted, I don't know how you put it, this group, and you pulled them all together, a lot of people, and you demonstrated, you did all this. What possessed you to do that?
You know what? I'm tired. I'm tired of the corruption, and I'm tired of pay-to-play politics. The people of Illinois are suffering. They're losing their jobs. Their houses are being foreclosed on. I don't believe an elected official should be concerned with filling his own pocket. You become an elected official because you want to serve the people, not yourself.
Now, let me ask you a question. You're a Democrat.
Correct.
You're a Democrat. So let me ask you this. Are you a supporter of Pat Quinn?
You know what?
Because you're running for lieutenant governor, I'm interested in knowing what your opinion is of the current governor, who was formerly lieutenant governor. What do you think of him as a lieutenant governor, and what do you think of him as a governor? And you don't have to go into detail, but I want to know what you think of the offices as they are.
Pat Quinn is a very honest man. I believe that he has the best interest of the people at heart. So does Dan Hines. They're both honest. They both have the same personality. Who I've chosen to run with,
Support.
hang with, help. I haven't made up my mind yet.
Okay.
Again, they're both honest. They're both honorable.
But you feel that both of them are strong politicians and strong for the Democratic Party, is what you're saying?
Yes. Pat Quinn did something that I didn't agree with, and he suggested the idea of raising taxes. I don't agree with raising taxes. I believe there are other ways to creatively bring revenue into the state. The problem is he suggested it, he started to do it, and then he backed away from it. You can't do that. I don't believe any politician, when you make a decision, you live by your decision, right or wrong. I thought it made him look a little weak.
Okay, let me come back, because you made a statement right now which brings me to ask you, what other ways can we raise these revenues besides raising taxes to cover this deficit that we are in the middle of?
That's actually a good question, and I've been asked that question several times. I believe that when I'm lieutenant governor, one of the things I want to do is to go out and court other businesses or businesses who are looking to relocate into the state of Illinois. That creates sales tax revenue, that creates income tax revenue, that creates jobs. Is that enough to fill our deficit? No. Is cutting out the wasteful spending, like $35 million a year for porta potties, is that enough to fix the deficit? No. But you do all these things combined, and it's a big chunk. It's a step in the right direction. Mm-hmm. Listen, I believe that these programs should not be cut. These people live and they need these programs. So if we have to raise taxes as a last alternative, fine, do it. But if you say you're going to do it, and don't double talk yourself. Don't second guess yourself.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, very good. So tell me, Scott Lee Cohen. Who is Scott Lee Cohen? Tell me about your family background. You're Jewish.
I'm Jewish.
You grew up. Where'd you have your bar mitzvah at?
Where did I have my bar mitzvah at? Yidamoshan, too.
Yidamoshan, too. We have your Rabbi Fossman. Where Rabbi Fossman was the rabbi and Rabbi Gutstein was the rabbi.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
And your family, were they Lincolnwood? Did you grow up as a young boy? Were you born in Lincolnwood?
My father actually was on the south side. And in 1969, he moved to Lincolnwood. So we lived there. All of our childhood was
very nice. Very nice. What are your favorite memories of growing up in the near north suburbs? What are your favorite memories of living in Lincolnwood near the north side of Chicago and stuff like that?
Nobody ever asked me that, but I'll tell you something. When I was a child, my most favorite thing to do was get on my bike and be gone all day. You can get lost, you can do whatever you wanted. All I had to do was call my dad once or twice a day. We had so much freedom as children then. We don't have it anymore.
Right.
That was one of the best memories. The community, being involved in the community, great memories.
Yeah. Were you a moviegoer? Did you do things like that with your friends? I mean, we're trying to get to know Scott Lee Cohen today.
I was in Lincoln Village all the time watching movies. I used to ride my bike there.
Great.
I lived by Prozel Park. Are you familiar?
Sure.
I lived right down the street from Prozel Park. Bunny Hutch, miniature golfing over there. Those were all.
So it was really a home base.
It was.
And a friendly and safe place to live.
It was a safe place, and
And it still is pretty much.
Sure it is. Sure.
It's
a great place.
Yeah, it's a great place.
Unfortunately, my father passed away. My mother's gone. But the memories of when we were all together as a family and the safety of that family, it's wonderful.
Now you have a number of brothers, siblings?
I have 4 brothers.
4 brothers, 5 children growing up in the house. What number are you in?
I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest. Any of your brothers in politics?
No.
Any of your brothers in business?
Yeah, they're all in business.
They're all in business.
They're all in the pawn shop business. My oldest brother lives in California and he sells art.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. So you have a strong base in this community. Do you plan on having, outside of your becoming lieutenant governor, do you plan on having your what do they call that, satellite office on the north side of Chicago or downtown Chicago? How does that work besides being in Springfield? What have you thought about those
I
things?
will have an office downtown in the State of Illinois building. I will have an office in Springfield. Here's one of the problems. You have these elected officials or people who are running.
Are you accessible? That's kind of the question I'm asking.
That's where I'm heading. And they make the promise to represent the whole state. The whole state is not Cook County.
Right.
The whole state is all 102 counties. So yeah, I'll have an office in Springfield. I'll spend as much time in Springfield as I do in Cook County, I believe.
Okay. And what about the answering to the people? My question next is about the lieutenant governor position. I'm not sure everybody knows. We have a vice president of the United States and a president of the United States. The president is involved. You don't hear much about the vice president except when there's like a tie vote or something like that. What is the lieutenant governor's actual job? What is that position? And you can have stands on things, but where do you really have any power, or what is set upon you as lieutenant governor to take care of?
There are 4 responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
There's the chairman of the Rural Bond Bank.
Want to tell us what that is, because people don't know.
What the chairman does, or what the Rural Bond Bank does, is it takes these communities in rural areas that are quite small. He works to put them together, and as a large group, he'll take them and raise money for them through the bond bank. Whereas if it was an individual small community, they couldn't do it on their own. So it's important for rural areas. I believe that there's a lot of areas right here in Chicago that can use that program. That I have to see when I get in, but that's one of my intentions. Getting back to your question, the Rural Bond Bank, the chairman of the Rural Affairs. So, down south in southern Illinois, he chairs this committee that helps develop economic redevelopment in the areas. And that ties into the 3rd program, which is
is this agricultural?
Not agricultural.
Where? How?
It's
in all businesses in rural areas.
Yes.
Okay.
Because the towns in rural areas still have downtown areas that need redevelopment. If I'm not mistaken, there are 36 cities in Illinois. Their downtown areas are part of the Main Street program, which is the 3rd thing he takes care of. Again. It's a group of volunteers, as well as the chairman, which is the lieutenant governor, that helps with the communities to redevelop their downtown areas. Redeveloping your downtown areas brings businesses in, it creates jobs. They're great programs. The 4th thing that the lieutenant governor takes care of is the water and river system in Illinois, which is very important to me because I'm a voter. It's a nice blend. Again, it's a group of volunteers that test the water, that look after the rivers, that clean the rivers. In fact, we're having a big river day coming up sometime in September. Myself and 40, 50 volunteers will be out there cleaning a river. I don't know which one yet, but it'll be one of them. So the lieutenant governor has those responsibilities. I'm sure you know that he's very active with the veterans. In fact, Pat Quinn is still very active with the veterans. But let's be honest. There are things that people in Illinois need that are within a scope, yet have never really had the attention it deserves. Creating jobs in the state of Illinois. As lieutenant governor, I want to be the liaison to go out to the businesses that are in other states or maybe just starting up and enticing them to come to Illinois so that we can create jobs, so that there could be sales tax revenue and income tax revenue. Whether they come to Cook County or anywhere in the state, I'd be very happy. I don't know if you heard, but last month I had a huge job fair. That's something I'm going to continue to do as lieutenant governor. I will have the staff and the ability to do bigger and better job fairs than I have in the past.
So do you think that the lieutenant governor position is more accessible to the people than the governor himself?
Absolutely. That's my plan and my goal. Listen, the governor's a busy guy. I'm very accessible. My door will always be open for organizations or communities, just people that need advice or need help.
Okay, I have a big, strong question for you now. Do you think that you, Scott Lee Cohen, if you become the lieutenant governor and the governor should resign for health reasons or something should happen to him or something like that, are you ready to step up and be governor of the state of Illinois, never holding office before? Because that obviously is something that you have to be prepared for. Do you think you're ready for that tomorrow?
You know what? Yeah, I'm very ready for it. I want to make it very clear that that's not why I ran for this position.
Of course,
I ran for this position specifically because of the ability it gives me to create jobs, to help with school programs, after school programs. But yeah, if something happened to the governor, I would step up to the plate and lead the people of Illinois.
Have you met with Pat Quinn already and talked to him?
I have not met with him yet.
You have not?
No, I talked to Dan Hines a couple days ago. I will meet with Pat.
And then let me ask you another question now, and I'm not sure that I know this answer because I don't. Since Pat Quinn became the governor, is there an acting lieutenant governor, or is that position empty?
Empty.
Empty?
Yeah, in fact, they cut the budget, and I believe they let the employees go or moved them to other departments.
Wow. So what happens to all the things that Pat was working on as lieutenant governor?
He takes it with him, or he delegates it to other areas within the state.
So does he take some of his staff with him?
Yeah, he did take some of his staff. In fact, I was the chairman committee meeting in Springfield, and the first question I asked of the chairmen is, do any of you know what the lieutenant governor does? So some lady starts rattling off the 4 responsibilities. And I forgot her name. She was a very nice lady. But you know what? She works for Pat Quinn now, who's the governor. She worked for him when he was lieutenant governor. She was the only one that knew. And that's a problem to me, that people in the state of Illinois, they don't know what the lieutenant governor does.
Well, if you're watching Taped with Rabbi Doug right now, you do know what the 4 main duties of the lieutenant governor are. And I'm here with Scott Lee Cohen, who is candidate for lieutenant governor of the state of Illinois. And stay with us here on Taped with Rabbi Doug. We'll be right back.
Achievements of the modern age. We've come so far.
I have a dream. It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And we have so far to go.
Taped with Rabbi Doug. We'll be right back.
I am an American.
I am an American.
I am an American.
I am an American.
I am
An American.
I am an American.
I am American.
I am an American.
I'm an American. I'm an American.
I am American.
I am an American.
I'm an American.
I am an American.
I am an American.
Hi, I'm Alderman Bernie Stone. You're watching Taped with Rabbi Doug. My rabbi.
Welcome back. We're here on Taped with Rabbi Doug. I am here with Scott Lee Cohen. He is the candidate for lieutenant governor of the state of Illinois, primary in February 2010. What happens after the primary? How many people, first of all, do you know of right now that are running on the Democratic side, and how many people on the Republican side for the primary?
There's 5 or 6 on the Democratic side. There's 2 or 3 on the Republican side.
And when those 2 people are chosen through the primary, when will they actually be elected? Is that November?
That's November.
That's
the
November.
General election, absolutely.
November 2010.
Correct. The governor or lieutenant governor will run on the same ticket.
They run on the same ticket?
After the primary.
After the primary.
Yes.
So whoever wins the primary will be the lieutenant governor to the Democratic gubernatorial candidate.
Correct. And that's something that's very important too that we didn't talk about.
So it's not the governor who chooses, and it's not the person who chooses to run against a different person who's running for governor. Those 2 winners are the people who run together on one ticket.
The people in the state of Illinois are the ones who choose. But we need to talk about something because this is very important. You asked me how I felt about Pat Quinn.
Yeah.
It's very important that the people of Illinois know that it doesn't matter if Pat Quinn wins or Dan Hines wins. I'm able to work with just about anybody. my main concern and focus, and I hate to sound repetitive, but I want the people to hear and to understand they're my main concern. So if I have to work with Pat Quinn, I work with Pat Quinn. If I have to work with Dan Hines, or I don't care who it is, as long as I'm able to take care of the people and fulfill their needs.
And now a Republican person who would win the primary would run along with...
We had a back...
No, I'm just saying, potentially would run with a Republican governor who would win the primary. But if a Republican governor doesn't win the primary, then whoever the person that is in against you in the primary is going to be the candidate along with the governor.
Correct.
Okay.
And
I think not everybody understood that until just now, so that's a good thing.
At one time, I think in Illinois, you had a Republican governor and a Democratic lieutenant governor. They can't do that anymore. It's one or the other.
One ticket. Right. One ticket.
That's something else we should talk about. You got the Republicans here and you got the Democrats here. They're fighting. They're always fighting. When people fight, nothing gets done. So you know what? I'm very open-minded, and I want to talk to the Republicans. I want to talk to the Democrats. We have to work together. If we don't work together, nothing's going to happen.
Makes sense. Now, we first met and were introduced by Alderman Bernard Stone, just by chance. But a good friend of yours, David Lipsticks, had been talking to me saying, you have to meet Scott Lee Cohen. You have to meet Scott Lee Cohen. I want you to meet him. You guys, we'll hit it off. Have him on your TV show if you want, but you got to meet him. And here we ended up meeting when I was, visiting with the alderman, and you were visiting with the alderman at the same time, just by chance. You've mentioned a lot of things that you are interested in doing, but I'm looking at some of your literature right now, and right here it says here, you want to create good paying jobs and economic development in Illinois. You've touched on that. You want to ensure that Illinois receives its share of the stimulus package. Tell me how you would ensure that, and what does that mean for a lieutenant governor?
Well, you know what? I don't agree with the stimulus that we had in bailing out the big banks. My belief is that the money should have gone directly to the people. They started at the top and wanted it to trickle down. It's not trickling down. You need to give the people the money, let them spend it, let them put it back into circulation. Pat Quinn, Dan Hines are career politicians. And I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm saying what Illinois needs now is a mixture of career politicians and businessmen. Because the businessmen give the people like Pat Quinn and Dan Hines good creative ideas for doing good things with the stimulus money, or for spending the money a little bit more wisely, other than the $35 million for porta potties. Listen, I talked to a lot of people. Nobody knew we spent $35 million last year on porta potties, and that upset me. Here the people are going without jobs. All these programs were cut, and there's foolish spending going on. I want to stop it.
All right, the next thing in your literature says you work hard to ensure that Illinois residents receive quality health care coverage. Now, one of the things that Rob Blagojevich did that nobody can knock him as far as it goes is set up the kid care and family care health programs, which have brought health care to people who never had it before. How would you adjust that program, and how would you bring quality health care coverage to the people of Illinois, or support that being done different, or support what's there already?
The idea of the program was good, and I wish that we could bring some doctors in here to testify about the kids care program, because the doctors are not getting paid. I think they get $60 or $90 a year to see these kids. I don't know the exact amount. It was smoke and mirrors. The idea was good, but it was all smoke and mirrors. So what do we need to do? You take that program and you expand on it. You pay the doctors the money that they deserve so that they'll see the patients.
You're saying a lot of doctors aren't accepting kid care as insurance?
No, they're not.
Okay.
They're not. And again, when it's smoke and mirrors, the people are the ones who are affected. Every man, woman, and child deserves, needs, and should have health insurance and prescription drug coverage. Now, President Obama is working very hard to come up with a universal.
That was my next question. What are you thinking about President Obama's, health care package that he's trying to promote?
I think that It's good in some ways, and like anything else, it's controversial in some ways. My concern is, when will that start going into effect? It could be 2 years, it could be 6 months, or it could be 5 years. My concern is the people today and tomorrow. So however that plays out or unfolds is fine. We need to get these people insurance today. And again, by bringing more revenue into the state, I would insist that the governor use some of that money to provide health and prescription drug coverage for every man, woman, and child.
Very good. Your next item I see on your literature says, I want to increase access to first-class education for all Illinois residents. Are you promoting and overriding the way things are in the public schools? Are you promoting to allow people to have easier access to private education when they want it? Tell me what that means.
You know, I believe that the education programs in the state-run schools are adequate at best. You know, and I might be changing the subject for a second. I woke up this morning and a 13 or 15-year-old girl was killed in Crossfire. Did you happen to hear that?
I did.
I'm tired of it. I'm tired of these innocent children getting killed every day in our city. So how do we fix that? We take the education and we fine-tune it and make it a little bit better. We get the parents involved with their children. I think that's a big problem. They're not involved. We find ways to provide after-school programs. Illinois has what's called the Illinois Law Enforcement Explorer Program. Have you ever heard of it?
I've heard the name before.
Great program. It's in all the communities in Illinois, and it allows these children to go to the police stations and kind of explore law enforcement. Once a year, they meet for a competition in St. Louis, in Springfield. And I mixed it up because I'm excited. The program's 27 years old. They have never had a scholarship or a grant or anything like that. I happened to be there this past weekend, and I started a scholarship.
Wonderful.
I want these children in the city to have options. They don't have it now. So they're involved in games. You know what? Now they don't have to be. Now they can be involved in this law enforcement.
Wonderful. Scott, I can't thank you enough for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I want to once again thank our Lieutenant Governor candidate, Scott Lee Cohen, for being with us here on Taped with Rabbi Doug. Remember, you can check out our website, www.tvrabbi.com, where you can also see our show on the web. And if you want to email me, I'll be happy to forward it on to Scott Lee Cohen, who I'm sure will get back to you. You can email me at info@tvrabbi.com. Once again, Scott Lee Cohen,
thank you.
I wish you much success in your endeavors and in the primary in February of 2010. I want to thank you for being with us. Hope to see you next time right here on Taped with Rabbi Doug. Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
And I'm talking about Rabbi Doug. Talking about Rabbi Doug. Talking about Rabbi Doug on your TV show. Well, he's the rabbi for me. Anytime you need. You're gonna get married or you're gonna die. Gonna see Rabbi Doug. Gonna see Rabbi Doug. Gonna see Rabbi Doug. Gonna see Rabbi Doug on the TV tonight.
This has been a Taped with Rabbi Doug production.